The Dreamcast. For those who know, it's an iconic piece of hardware that dates back to 999. And it had a whole selection of awesome fighting games, including Vampire Chronicle, Project Justice, and Street Fighter Alpha 3, just to name a few. Well, if you wanted to get a fight stick for it that had genuine sound parts, your only choices until now were to build or modify. And for a lot of people, that may not be their cup of tea. Well, TR Fight Sticks saw that opportunity and produced this, the Octopus. It's a controller that was made to play on Dreamcast. And why? Well, you see that little window there? That's a VMU window. Yep, that's right. They have their own custom PCB, and it has VMU support built right into the stick. So no funny bypass plugins or anything like that. You don't have to have a separate controller on another port with its own VMU. You can have it right in here, and this is made for the Dreamcast. Now this is a prototype, and the actual final version is going to support over 30 consoles. So probably lives up to that name of connecting to about everything. Now in this review, I'm going to go over kind of an overview, also talk about what the differences are between the current model that's on their website and this prototype, as well as, just give it a spin in the lab. So let's get started. Let's do a quick overview of the Octopus. Now this is a prototype unit. The final is made of aluminum, and this is mostly 3D printed with some acrylic on top. So just bear that in mind. The final has changed. We'll talk about that later on. Anyhow, for stick and buttons, you kind of have a pretty standard setup. It's a JLF lever, it's OBSF buttons, but they are arranged in the Sega 2P format, which is pretty rare. Now the final version actually has options. So if you like Velix, you can get that. If you like Noir, you can get that. If you like a leverless setup, you can get that. If you do like Sega 2P, and I do recommend trying it at least, there you go, you also have that. So anyhow, besides this and the very obvious VMU here, option buttons up top, SOCD, not sure why this is here other than it's just kind of prototype weirdness. So there's that. There's a left stick and directional pad select. So Dreamcast does have that analog stick as well as directional pad, and this just toggles between them. Of course, you do not get real analog control, just a simulation, as always. Anyhow, turbo button, and it does something interesting. It interacts with this guy. So if you hold down turbo and start activating or deactivating turbo, it'll start showing a little count here. It's hard to see, I know. Right now, since I activate on everything, it's saying 8T. So if I start deactivating, it'll count back down. Doesn't really tell you where the turbo is, but it does tell you how many buttons have turbo enabled. That may be changed in a future revision, I'm not sure. Anyhow, before we go back to the VMU, let's talk about, well, there's nothing really up front, nothing on the side here, nothing on the other side. There is this nice laser cut foam on the bottom, which is nice, and I imagine this panel is definitely kind of a beta feature there. And up front, I have an RJ45 port. The final is going to have USB-C, a DB15 port, I believe, and this RJ45. So it depends on the console you're connecting to, depending on the port you'll use. It does have this rocker switch, and it's not for stick select. This is seems to be a tournament lockout. So this is our start button. If I have this in any other position but flip to where it is, it's not going to work. So definitely seems to be functioning as some sort of lockout, and yeah, typically you'd use a 2-position switch, but again, prototype weirdness, I'm not going to hold it against it. Anyhow, the most prominent feature of this guy is, right here. It's the VMU integrated. You don't need any funny things, no plugins, nothing. It is built into the PCB itself, because it has its own SD card slot or micro SD card slot. So you just pretty much put one of those in, formatted the right way, and you can start saving and loading all of your Dreamcast games, which is really cool. And the display on this is pretty nice. I've seen a lot of those little status screens for GP2040. And, they're functional, they work, but this just seems, even on camera here, it looks a little bit better. Probably gets squished by YouTube a little bit, so if you can actually read that are live too. And yes, it is bringing in the VMU art, so that's really cool. I love that. Anyhow, there's our quick overview, so let's move on to some lab testing. Let's do some lab tests just to kind of show you the unique feature of this stick, which is really the built-in VMU. And as you can see, it does emulate the original VMU artwork, so that's really cool. And you also get a little icon there for when you're saving or loading, which I want to demonstrate. So I'll go into option, and memory card, we'll go ahead and demonstrate a save. It's going to ask me, hey, do you want to overwrite? And I want to make this a little bigger for y'all, so let's go ahead and save. You'll notice you have a quick little access, and then it will show a little thing over the SD card icon, and your game is saved. So that's a really nice feature. And let's go ahead, you can demonstrate a load as well. So it does the same thing, very brief, very quick. It's very nice. And we'll just go ahead and exit. All right, let's just do a little in-game footage. And yeah, it pretty much handles like, your average GLF and OBSF configuration. You do have this Sega 2-piece setup, so if you're not used to that, you're used to Vuelix, then it might be a bit of an adjustment period. I think overall it's a more ergonomic setup. Now, if you're used to playing on, say, Astro City and some of the other Sega cabinets, then this layout won't be much of a change at all. At least on some sides. Go ahead and just play a little Fatal Fury, huh? Just know that I'm terribly bad at this game, like most. But we'll see what we can do. It's something. Okay, so let's try some Project Justice, and as you can see, I'm loading without having my regular VMU in, so game thinks, hey, you have no save data. Let's go and create one, and it's just that easy. I want to show just changing some options and then saving them, so yeah, we can just leave that alone, exit, and it's auto-saving. So don't even need to go into memory card, but you can see it is visible here, so it's doing its job. All right, so forgive me again, my knowledge of the game here is pretty limited, but I wanted to show it off. Oop. Let's please run into that. Thank you. All right, good enough. I did want to take a look at the current status as of this recording for the final product, and here's their sales page right now. So there is a white version and there's a black version. Don't know if any colors are coming down the line. I believe they're going to be aluminum in the final product, so those options might be limited. You might have to, if you want a custom color, you'd have to, engage a paint shop on your own or something like that. There are, though, some pre-made art plates here you can order, and there's also, you can order all the cables. Now, I don't know if you back the Kickstarter, if you get a set of those cables or not. I didn't get to look. But they are all here. It would be nice if there was a bundle of retro cables, just have them all together, be done with it, and there you go. I am noticing that you have a TurboGrafx 16 cable, which I have not seen before. I know the Brook Retro supports the PC Engine, and I have the cable for that. Some they don't support are Neo Geo and Genesis, this is going to be totally new. So if you have those systems, then here's a stick that finally supports it, right? Anyway, let's go and take a look. So you can see the basic shape is kind of similar to the 3D print that I have. This is supposed to be made of aluminum. Same stick and button layout, basically. The VMU is really nicely integrated into, let's go and take a bigger look, and to these option buttons. It looks like they'll be membrane or something like that. Yeah, that's okay. And if we scroll down, so we got some rocker switches, which will probably be lockout or something like that, as well as you can see the ports here. This is probably the RJ45 right there. In the center was for the Neo Geo, maybe Supergun, I think it mentioned, and USB-C over here. So there's that, and here's a top view. So yeah, no bottom view to let us know if it's going to be held in by screws or some other exotic sealing mechanism. It'll probably be screws, kind of like the preview model we have here. It would be nice to have a magnetic seal, just so you can ply that off if you want, but maybe enterprising modders can do that. I'm not sure. All right, so that's a look at that. Now, what I'm really excited about, though, and if you're a retro gamer, it's this, supporting 20 plus platforms, and I believe they want to do modern and also retro consoles, so that's really cool. And yep, confirmed Sega 2P right here. Does look like, yeah, you're just getting the USB-C for right now, cleaning cloth, okay. There's that. And that is a lot of systems to be compatible with. Let me make that even bigger. So you can see pretty much the full range of PlayStation from 1 to 5. 5, we know lots of people have only limited compatibility with it. You're going to be playing fighting games. We get it. Switch loves everybody. PC loves everybody. Steam Deck, and on and on and on. So yeah, if you have a lot of devices to bring to the party, this is going to handle them. Which, compared to buying a stick for every platform here, even if you can get it for $50 each, I mean, this is a steal. I'd have to do a real price comparison between having a full set of cables and the Octo versus having either converters or separate sticks for each, but whew, I think you could spend a lot trying to replicate what this is going to offer. We can change the buttons, of course. So yeah, this is looking really interesting. If you're looking for that all-in-one solution, I think that's what they're aiming for here, and hopefully with the final product they will definitely succeed. It looks really exciting. Another thing that TR Fight Sticks appears to be doing is the Octo layout. So if you're leverless, well, you just choose Hitbox over here, and presto. You probably will have to supply your own buttons and conversion harness, though. They may sell that, I'm not sure. But if you are more of a fan of Vuelix, you just go Vuelix Japanese, and if you have a Korean stick you want to put in, you can select the Korean modification there. If you like Noir, that's also here, and Japanese and Korean variants, so that's a really nice touch. The one thing I was going to ask next is, okay, what do you got for the leverless players out there? And they have delivered, so Wow, that's really thinking of everything. Let's wrap things up with what I feel about what we have, what's coming, who is it going to interest the most, and just some stray TLDR thoughts. Let's talk about where we're at as far as this prototype. Now, I believe the original intention of the project was, hey, let's create a great Dreamcast fighting stick. The market is underserved there for us retro people that like to play on older consoles. You just don't have a lot of pre-built options, right? Well, it does this job really, really well. You have, yeah, it's stick and buttons, and they work really well. You have the integrated VMU support, which I feel is the major selling point here, and its own custom PCB that takes advantage of it. The screen on it is actually pretty nice. Most screens I see on, say, GP2040, under the camera they flicker and stuff like that, but on camera with this, it doesn't do that at all. So it's a very high quality little display, and that it picks up on the game little art, pixel art, that usually displays on the VMU is a super nice feature. I really like that. And it gives you nice positive response that, hey, I'm saving or I'm loading. So that's awesome. Otherwise, yeah, they're going to have all sorts of features, and I'll talk about that next. So what about the future of this project based on, well, at least what we reviewed earlier on the website? And I feel it's, again, very bright. I mean, it hit a lot of their Kickstarter goals, so that's already a plus. And having multi-system compatibility on that order without having to use extra converters, dongles, controller pass-throughs, anything like that, you just get the cable, you just plug it in, and you're set, is pretty amazing. That said, the asking price of $300 and you just starting with a USB-C cable, that's going to be steep for people, I agree. However, when you compare the convenience of just having set of cables that you can plug in directly, have one fight stick across 20 plus platforms, you start to get to kind of a parity, right? Especially if you play a lot of different retro consoles. A Brook adapter can cost anywhere from 30 to 40, maybe even more, whereas the cables for these, $15 a pop, right? And hopefully they'll have different bundles you can buy. Maybe you can get a Sega bundle, you can get a Nintendo bundle, you can get a PlayStation bundle, you can get a Xbox bundle, or no, there's very much of that. Or just a complete enchilada package where it's, okay, I'm getting all the cables, I'm getting the stick the way I want it, customized with the buttons I want, etc., etc. That would be, I could see a higher asking price, of course, but compared to having to buy however many adapters, maybe it costs a little bit less, but not by much, and then you have to juggle adapters. So, I feel like if I did the numbers, they'd be relatively even. So, especially for the quality that's going to go into it, allegedly it's going to be aluminum body, so that's really great for weight and resilience and just durability. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm really looking forward to that. So what will the Octopus be oriented towards? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. If you have a lot of consoles, whether they be modern or retro, then solid fight stick that you can play on almost any console, provided you have the cables, of course. That's a clear winner to me, especially since I'm biased, I'll admit. I've set out to build fight sticks that could already do that, and to have one that can do it out of the box without spending, for me, it takes like a week if I put my mind to it, doing all the cable wrapping and all that other stuff. Yeah, I'm really customizing it, but having something that people can buy right out of the box and play on all their old consoles, that's really, really great. That's awesome to have that on the market as an option. So primarily, yes, it's going to appeal to those of you that have a lot of consoles, especially retro consoles, that you want an easy way to play your favorite, arcade-style games with an arcade-style controller. Fighting game enthusiast, of course, going to want to look into this. So there's your primary audience. So what are my final TLDR, wrap it up kind of thoughts on the Octopus project? So So I've said it before, and hopefully it's come across. I'm really excited for this project, especially now that it's crossed into supporting so many different consoles. And it's kind of personal for me because that's what I first set out to do with my builds. And yeah, it cost me a lot of money to do those, but it was worth it to me. One, I learned how to stick build and modify and do all that other stuff. And I had the satisfaction of having the controller I wanted on about whatever console I wanted. So NES, Super Nintendo, Saturn, Dreamcast especially, I can play on all those with my sticks and it's configured the way I want. So that's really nice. And having that in, a readily purchasable, something you don't have to spend a week on building and configuring, etc., that's going to be really big to bring retro gaming to more people, I feel. Now, I do have the concern, obviously, and I'm sure if you saw the price tag on our review, yeah, you're going to have it too, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But being able to connect to so many systems to just be pretty much plug and play on them is going to be a huge, huge game changer. It's going to be something I feel is really great for the retro crowd and really great for the modern crowd as well. So you can just play on whatever system you feel like without having to worry about pass-throughs or adapters or anything like that. You just need to know which cable you need and go from there. Now the second big observation I have, and I've kind of made it, is, well, let's face it, sticker shock. Right, $300 seems like a lot of money to put down on a controller, and I completely understand. And that's before any customization or any accessories, right? So I get it. However, I want you to consider some scenarios. If you are just going to be playing on one or two systems, you're only going to play on one or two systems, then this stops making as much sense, right? Sure, it's going to be a nice controller. I think it looks really great from the pictures, made of aluminum. I think that's going to be a really nice balance between weight and durability. However, one or two systems, that's a really pricey ask. However, if you have 5, 10, whatever retro consoles that are compatible with this, then it starts making more sense. I mean, think about, if you wanted to go and buy a separate stick for every console you had, that could be, $75, $100 minimum per console, probably more. So you quickly outstrip the cost, and then you have to juggle all those controllers. Well, you say, well, I'll just get one and then get adapters. Well, for one, that, you probably invest, let's say, again, 75, 100, if you stay at the budget end, maybe more, could be up to 200. And then you start buying adapters. Those cost maybe, what, $30, $40, $50 a pop? And that's per console. And yeah, you might save a few dollars, but then you have to start juggling those adapters, right? And sure, you'd have to juggle cables to be fair, but I feel like that's just easier to plug and play and not have to configure adapters and not have to update adapters, which you have to do every now and again with Brook. So, you kind of balance those factors, convenience, cost, etc. So, on the whole, I think this is price competitive once you start getting into that multiple console compatibility, issue. So I think it's a fair price for what you're getting in the end. Now, to follow on that discussion of budgeting, value, price, etc., I do want to state again that I hope TR Fight Sticks offers bundle packs for the connection cables, just so you can buy an all-in-one pack, you can buy a Sony pack, an NES pack, whatever kind of packs you want to set up at a slight discount, just to encourage people, that might feel like, oh no, I have to buy all of these adapter cables, and man, those are pricey. Well, it would help take some of the sticker shock out of it. One last comment on the cabling is I'm hoping this is going to be compatible with the AccuShop cables that Arcade Shock sells. That's one way we can get cables, at least stateside, a little bit cheaper perhaps. without having to pay for shipping from, TR Fight Sticks. And I already have an existing collection of these, so it'd be nice that I don't have to buy an entirely new set. To close things out, yeah, I'm really excited about this. If this had come out in late 2019, early 2020, I probably would have taken a very serious look at it instead of going into building my own. But I'm glad I did, so, that's okay. But for those of you who are not DIY, just don't feel like you know a screwdriver from a wrench or whatever, then something like this, if you have multiple systems, especially multiple retro systems, this is for you. You don't have to go and piece together everything. You don't have to figure out what to buy, what's going to work together, what's not going to work together. It's just all here. And that is an amazing deal for as much as they're asking, actually, especially if you have multiple retro systems, you start playing across multiple retro systems. Again, yeah, you could buy a cheaper controller and then start using adapters, but then you have to make sure those adapters work and that those adapters are up to date, and that can be a bit of a pain. So just having the plug and play nature is really, really useful. Now that said, what do I hope for in the future of the Octopus project? Now we've got a JLF in this setup and OBSF buttons. I'm hoping we can get those customized at the factory. Maybe I want Crown or Sumitsu or what have you. Maybe I want a JLX or a Nobi Pro or something like that, right? Maybe I want a green setup, an Xbox color setup, whatever it is. If we can do that from the get-go instead of having it be, well, yeah, you can plug this in after the fact and mod it as you like, I understand I can do that. However, let's face it, there are just some people that are not DIY, and short of having someone debug to do it for them, they're not going to do it, right? Sure, it's an easy mod. I had those tutorial videos. You can learn how. They just don't want to do it. I understand. I get it. So having that customization in the future, I feel, is the next step. Maybe adding RGB, maybe something crazy like adding a Wii Nunchuck port on the side. I don't know, just for analog control. That'd be cool. All possibilities, right? I'm just wish listing at this point, but as it is, I'm really excited for this project, and I wish you guys the best. Hey everyone, you know what time it is. I've got a kitty, and you've just watched the video, so I'd really appreciate it if you follow the YouTube refrain, like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. If you found this material interesting, it was informative, helped you make a buying decision, he'd really like it if you left a like. You can tell. Look at how much he loves it. If you have questions or just want to see something you thought it was in the video, didn't make sense or whatever, leave a comment, tag me, and I'll try and answer within 2 to 3 days. And finally, if you want to see more content from the arcade stick, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell button. You know the drill. Come on, you've been on YouTube. I doubt any of you this is your first time. Anyway, Rocky says, do it or else.
The arcade stick.